What is going on, YouTube, and welcome back for the first time since November 17th of 2023. We are live. What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It is Kevin Forte coming to you today with a live stream. A lot has happened over the last couple of weeks, basically months at this point since we last spoke, specifically on this channel and even on my other channel. A lot of stuff has been going on with YouTube, with my YouTube channel, and after a lot of debate, after a lot of thinking, I decided to come back. And I'm really happy to have you guys back here. Shout out to all of you guys here in the chat. You guys are awesome. I see Urban in there. Of course, he's always first. PJ's in there. Shaka's in there. So happy to see all of you guys, and hopefully some more of you as we move throughout the afternoon. So I'm going to do my best to answer some of your guys' questions. The problem right now I'm having, and I'm very much looking forward to answer your questions. Yes, there you go. What's going on, Dad? Babyface Kevin, we'll get to that. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. So the quick rundown is I tried doing things on the other channel, and I did not have the same motivation that I did with this channel. And whether this channel loses its monetization, whether I'm shadow banned, whatever it might be, I am going to keep this channel, good or bad. I've worked too hard for this channel to give up on it quite yet. And I think I needed some time away, specifically because I was quite frustrated with the NHL. The reason I have this channel, a huge reason I have this channel, is to talk to you guys and kind of talk shop about hockey. But another big reason was, I want to help grow the sport of the NHL. There's not enough NHL coverage out there. The world has started to pick up on that a little bit, and I thought that this channel would be a great way to grow the sport a little bit. And then to have the NHL come in and kind of undercut me and see me as like a competitive threat or something like that really wasn't something that it was very distasteful to me, and I was quite bothered by it, and it really took my wind out of the sails. But at this point, I've kind of accepted what they did. I've kind of accepted whatever happens to the fate of this channel, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do. And hopefully you guys understand that. So let's see what you guys are saying in here. This is the highlight of my January. Oh, PJ, you're the best, man. Still a member. You're the best, PJ. Through thick and thin, I know PJ is always going to be there. And a bunch of you guys as well. Oh, Surreal's in here as well. Hey, Kev, good to see you back. Thank you, Surreal. I missed all you regulars in here. You guys are awesome. I'm glad to see you guys in here. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, of course I'll be answering hockey questions, but as much as I can, I'll answer some of the other questions that I'd like to give to you guys as well. But I will do my best. I don't know if I will be able to answer all of them, but I will do my best answering them. So today, basically, we are going to be, game-wise, discussing the Flyers versus the Bruins. Mark Recchi just got his jersey number retired. I don't want to say his banner raised because basically they have so many guys in Philly now where they don't each get their own banner. It's basically your nameplate goes on a banner that's already there at the Farg. So at this point, that's kind of where we're at with the Flyers. So they're finishing up those festivities, cleaning off the ice, doing whatever they have to do, and we will get into action on the game. So Shaka says, I got some questions for you, Kev. Great. I will take your guys' questions. Thoughts on the Stadium Series jerseys? That is a great question. So my first thoughts are, and it's very divisive. It seems like it's either people love one or they hate one, and the other three they love or hate. So if you hate the three that we're going to mention, and you guys probably know where I'm going with this, 3 jerseys you probably either hate or love, and it's the opposite for the other jersey. So one jersey in particular is a standout for all the wrong reasons, and that's the Flyers. The Flyers jersey, in my opinion, is just, it is so Flyers for the wrong reasons. And yo, we got a shout out here for PJ, member for 7 months. Goddamn, PJ. I hate the Flames. So, of course, we knew that was going to come in. Our troll member, PJ, you're the best. Yeah, so the Flyers jersey is really disappointing for me. If you guys look up in the past, they've had teal jerseys. They've had a lot of interesting concepts from the 90s that they never ended up materializing. There was a mock-up or a concept jersey that I actually really liked. They didn't end up going that route. It's a very boring jersey in my opinion. Some people think that's the best jersey though. It's more your perspective on the jerseys. And in my opinion, I just think it's so bland. It's so boring. It is literally nothing different than they've ever had. So in my opinion, I think it's a missed opportunity for the Flyers. For the other 3, for the New York metro area teams, I think they did well. Again, some people are very much like, I don't like it, or they really like it. So the third one that I like the least is probably, and I hate to say this, it's the Islanders. I think the Islanders have the 3rd worst jersey. Of course, I am an Islanders fan. Of course, I bought the jersey because, of course, I did. But it was a missed opportunity to put the Lighthouse logo on there. I think that would have been a really nice homage by the Islanders to do something like that. Instead, they go the route of doing that basic line going across, and the meaning for that is basically it's the water level line of a vessel. That's the reason it is a line like that. They're really pulling at straws for that. I don't think that's really the reason, but if it is, whatever. I'm not a fan of the word mark. I hate when teams do that with the Isles logo across like that, so was not a fan of that either. So hopefully that's something that isn't around for too much longer in terms of like becoming a full-time jersey, which I don't think it will. These are always kind of Stadium Series jerseys and they go away. But I think putting a logo on there would have been a much better look for the Islanders than going with the just word mark of Isles across. It is just so nuked of any sort of creativity or imagination. And again, there's so many jerseys that Islanders fans have been waiting for that we haven't seen. And even the return of an orange jersey would have been really nice. Again, missed opportunity there. So that's number 3. Number 2, I'm going to be going with the Rangers. I think the Rangers actually did really well with their jersey. A lot of fans don't like the the NYR word mark. At least it's slightly more creative than the Islanders. It's their basic jersey, though, which I think a lot of people are also kind of disappointed by. But again, when you think of the Rangers, that's sort of the colors and the pattern that you would expect from a Ranger jersey. So I don't think they did too bad with this one. A lot of people are critiquing it. I'm not as critical of this one. I think they actually did fairly well. And then, of course, comes my favorite one, which was the Devils one. I believe it's a red jersey. It's either a full red jersey or a full black jersey with a kind of simplified version of the NJ Devil logo, which I love. I think they did a really nice job with this one. It's one of those things that I think if I'm a Devils fan, I'm probably buying. As an Islander fan, I probably won't. Again, I'm trying to actually clear out a lot of my collection. I've actually been selling some of my jerseys on eBay. So it's one of those things where, yeah, if things were in a little bit better of a spot, maybe I would have been able to acquire it. I do think it's the best of the 4 alternate jerseys or the Stadium Series jerseys. But I want to know what you guys think. Which of the 4 Stadium Series jerseys is your favorite? Urban said stadium jerseys are terrible. Flyers are the best. See, so that's what I mean. So Urban is more the mindset of he doesn't like those. It depends on what style you like. You either love the Flyers jersey and hate the rest, or the opposite, right? Or vice versa. So it's kind of more if you're a traditionalist in terms of the jersey market, you're probably looking at the Flyers jersey as your favorite. If you're looking for more of the modern jerseys that are a little bit more out of the box, you probably like the other 3 a little bit more. So thank you for your guys' question there. PJ says, Kev, thoughts on the Flames Heritage Classic jersey? I didn't actually see the Heritage Classic jersey. I'm not totally sure about that. Let me look real quick. Sharks can't even tank right now. Yes, that's true. Oh, you guys are making fun of Shaka, that's why. Calgary Flames Heritage jersey. Now, I think we could also have another discussion on the NHL's execution of these jerseys. Oh, yeah, now I know what you're talking about. I did see this. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I completely hate it, but I didn't go out of my way to be like, oh, I need that jersey. I don't know. It's not a bad-looking jersey. It's better than the Oilers. The Oilers one is worse, but that's not necessarily a huge compliment for the Flames. It's just better than the worst jersey. It's the better of the lesser evils there. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But thank you, PJ. Shaka said, going to the Sharks game today, Kev, you streaming is a good sign of things to come. Thank you, Shaka. And I don't know if you want them to lose or not, but that's kind of the state of things right now. Yeah, and Shaka brings up the All-Star jerseys. Yeah, they are pretty bad. Yes. I was not a huge fan of the All-Star jerseys. They look cartoonish. And I think, again, a lot of the traditionalists will be in the same vein, right? Like, I do not like those jerseys one bit. And I think that's pretty fair. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'm not a huge fan of them. Some people like them. I'm sure kids will buy them. They're definitely more kid-driven. It kind of reminds me of like a Nickelodeon jersey. Like if Nickelodeon was in a partnership with the NHL, that's something they would make. But again, for the majority of NHL fans being older and other generations, probably not going to be the biggest hit with the older audience. I think one of the best jerseys we saw was the one up in Ottawa when they had the East and West. I really like those jerseys, the red and the blue. And then the other one I really like is the one a couple years ago when they were in LA. The LA Kings, they had the purple, black, gray, and I think white. I really like those jerseys. I think the numbers were really nice on those. If you haven't seen those, you guys definitely got to check those out. But that's kind of my thoughts on that. How is the quality of the video? I might have to fix it because it looks like it's lagging a little bit. So let me see if I could fix that real quick. the output. I'm just going to lower the specs a little bit. Let me know if that helps at all, guys, if you can. Urban. You know what I mean, though, Urban. Traditional. You're very traditional in your mindset, which is a good thing, because we need that counterbalance, especially in today's world. What else are you guys saying here? Shaka said, with the trade deadline approaching, which players do you see getting traded? So this is kind of the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because looks like they had a kindergarten draw them up. Yeah, it's not the best. So right now I am going into my career, and I'm starting my career, and it's going to take up a lot of my time. And I don't know how much time I'm truly going to have to dedicate to watching a ton of games, getting all the information I need, getting information to kind of relay to you guys for this, specifically this year's trade deadline. It's going to be very difficult. I will do my best to make sure that if I'm posting videos, it is going to be informative. It's something that will help you guys out. But probably from now till the summer, it is going to be very difficult for me to give my best takes that I can and the most informative takes that I can. So I know you guys will understand that. As I move along in this process, I'll give you guys more information on what's going on with it and how things are going. But it could get to the point where scheduling-wise, it's not going to be like it was on this channel, at least for the beginning. For the first 6 months, it's going to be probably more like one live stream per week, which will be on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we'll kind of go from there. And it's not what I want to do, it's more so what I have to do right now. And I hope you guys understand that. Like I said, I will do my best, but it is going to be difficult. And there's a lot of stuff that beyond the recording and the making videos, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to make goal line hockey possible that, things are going to get in the way that are going to prevent me from being at my absolute best on this channel, at least for the at least little bit of the foreseeable future. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at for that. I'm going to go real quick. I'm going to grab my hat. I want to show you guys some of the merch that I've been collecting. I'll show you guys in a second. So I will be back in a second. All right, there we go. So we are back. So this is going to be part of my goal line hockey merch line. The website I use is Spring, and I have not been a huge fan of their stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, using my own sample stuff, which stuff works. So once I perfect everything, I will have it available for you guys if you are interested in getting any of the merchandise. The hats are really good. I've been a fan of that. But some of the other stuff, before I really show you guys any of it, I want to make sure it's good enough quality that I would want you guys actually going out there and even supporting the channel that way. Because if it's not a good quality product, I don't want you guys getting that. So that is something else that I will be discussing with you guys over the next few months. And we will get into that. So what else are you guys singing here in the chat? Surreal said, do you remember my hot take on the Canucks having a great season? Yeah, you know what? The Canucks are pretty good, right? And we kind of talked about that. The idea of Thatcher Demko playing well was going to be a huge part of that. If the Canucks were going to do well this year, it was going to be on the back of Thatcher Demko taking over and really asserting himself. So it's nice to see him doing that. How's it going, Ange? I'm glad to see you in here. Go back to the gym. Go get your workout in, but I'm glad you stopped in for a minute. Thank you. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the stream. That really helps us out. So if you could do that at some point, it's definitely much appreciated. Saul's video is behind, but audio is fine. Okay, thank you, Shaka. Elias Lindholm gets traded to Dallas. Interesting. Well, I could see, yeah, the Elias Lindholm thing is definitely going to pick up. Calgary is going to be going, and I know PJ is probably thinking about that too, right? Like, the way Calgary is right now, if things continue the way they are at, that is going to be a situation to watch for, because if they truly fall out of the race here, which they kind of already are with 47 points, don't be surprised if Noah Hannafin, Elias Lindholm, all those guys, we start to see things happening over there. So we will keep an eye on that. Calgary is definitely one of the teams for the trade deadline that we definitely have to keep an eye on, because they could be one of the teams that's definitely a big seller at the deadline. I can't believe Waugh got another opportunity. Thoughts on Patrick Waugh? So you guys are talking about Patrick Waugh. So I actually saw him the other night. I went to that Islanders game where they played Dallas last Sunday. So again, it's one of those things. He's a very polarizing figure. To say I was shocked, nothing under Lou Lamoriello really shocks you. It's more so, this is, and Stefan Rosner, who is an Islanders beat reporter, kind of said it best. Lou Lamoriello bought a flamethrower and just torched it on the Islanders. That is what Patrick Waugh does for the Islanders. He is so different than Lane Lambert, who was so... And listen, I'm sure Lane Lambert is a great guy. This isn't a knock at him as a person or his character. But as a coach, specifically for this team right now, he just wasn't the right fit. This is a team that needs fire under them, needs a little bit of motivation. And it just doesn't seem like the message got very stale. And a lot of the players on the Islanders system don't really fit well with how Lambert wanted to run things. I think Patrick Waugh's sort of, possession mindset is going to be a lot better for guys like Matt Barzal and Horvat, bringing the puck in, pushing the play forward, putting pressure on the defenseman, skating into the zone instead of just dumping it in all the time. Excuse me. I think dumping it in creates a lot of problems for a team like the Islanders that are a lot older. Guys start picking, so you got like a pick of a defenseman. So now they're able to bring the puck back out, and the Islanders dump and chase doesn't work as well as it used to. Excuse me, guys. So it's just a different mentality, and I think the Islanders need that. This is boom or bust. Either it's going to work really well, or it's not. And if it doesn't work really well, I'm not going to be blaming Patrick Waugh. Specifically because the Islanders just don't have the roster. It is so easy to sit there and say, yeah, the Islanders don't really have the roster to win. And I think that'll be a benefit for Patrick Waugh if he doesn't have things work out with the Islanders. But the amount of praise and accolades he will get if he does make it, he is very motivated. I think he knows how people feel about him, that he's not a good head coach. He's too fiery. He's too opinionated. And I think he's going to use that as fuel to kind of move him forward and to kind of break through the adversity. So I think this is the best thing for Patrick Waugh. So we'll see how things go with that. But, I'm okay with the move by the Islanders. I think it was well overdue. And that's something I think would also be brought up is, did the Islanders wait too long to make this move? Because now you're going into the All-Star break. At this point, the division is quite competitive. There's really, other than maybe Columbus is really the team I think that's on the outs looking in. Everybody else in the Metro is at least in the running, right? If the Flyers go on a big run, the Devils, the Penguins, the Rangers, even the Islanders, if any of those teams gain a lot of ground, the point differential between all of them is quite small. And I would say maybe Washington and Columbus are the teams I would say that are almost out at this point. Everybody else is definitely in the running. And even Washington is still in the running. I just don't know how much more is left in the tank of Ovechkin. I think we're starting to see that specifically this season. Shaka said, I've always been a fan of your expansion videos, Kevin. Have you been paying attention to the Salt Lake City expansion notice to the NHL? Yeah, and I did want to talk about that too. So, yeah, what's interesting about that whole situation, again, I really haven't been following this stuff as much as I'd like to, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything. But we've talked about this for a long time. I made a video last spring talking about how we could have a new expansion team in the NHL. And here's the tip. I know you guys probably aren't starting a YouTube channel because you watch mine, but if you're ever interested in starting a hockey YouTube channel, the best videos to make are NHL expansion videos, especially when they start talking about it like they are now. It is such a hot ticket item. So many people want videos on that kind of stuff because it's all fun and speculation, right? So I think it's a lot of fun going over those. A lot of you guys have made such great ideas. Like somebody was saying last week, naming the team the Salt Lake City Yetis, which I think would be awesome. I've heard, what was another one I heard the other day? The Salt Lake City Bighorns, instead of the Rams, going with a different name like the Bighorns. I've heard some really interesting ideas for Salt Lake City in terms of names and branding and things like that. But I would love to see a team in Salt Lake City. I think right now they're waiting to see what happens with the Coyotes, and I think their fate has been sealed. And I think the NHL behind the scenes is putting a lot more effort into this than we know. I would not be surprised if Arizona were within this summer or next summer going to Salt Lake City. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it now. I think it's that soon. I think the summer of 2024 or 2025, we could be looking at a Salt Lake City relocation team. Now, the big thing on that's going to decide that is, do they want an expansion or relocation? Because if they're dead set on a expansion, well, then a relocation is not in the cards, and that completely falls out. But that is on the table. Houston, I think, is more so on the table for an expansion than a relocation team. And I think if they do add a team to Salt Lake City, then you're still keeping the 32 teams. You've got a 33rd with Houston. Now that leaves room for if they want to add an Eastern team, which I don't know if this necessarily works, but if you do something where Kansas City comes in, right? Kansas City comes in, you could add them, or you could bring in, forever we've talked about Hartford. We've heard about Quebec. We've heard about all these potential locations that could get an NHL team on the East Coast. Well, there you go. That could be your opportunity to do something like that. So that's kind of where things are at for the expansion stuff. I don't know a ton more information on what happened last week. I do remember seeing the news come out. But it sounds like they're pretty serious. And I believe it's the Utah Jazz ownership, which is very much interested in bringing in an NHL team. So we're still waiting here at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock here. We're still waiting for the game. It looks like they're still doing warm-ups and stuff. So we have a bit of a ways till the game actually starts, till puck drop. Again, shout out to Mark Recchi as he was inducted. His jersey number was retired, number 9. Or number 8 for the Philadelphia Flyers. So congratulations to Mark Recchi and his family. Shaka said, I know you haven't been paying attention much, and this year's draft isn't hyped up, but our thoughts on the top 3 of players this year, Celebrini, Yzerman. Yeah, and that's kind of what it's been at this point for the last little while. Again, I haven't really looked much into that stuff as much as I'd like to, but those have been the names we've heard all year. At some point, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a name we haven't really heard much about jump into the top 5 conversation. That kind of happens every year. It seems like one guy. It's a pattern. It seems like one guy that nobody has talked about all of a sudden jets up into the rankings, and that could be potentially what happens here. Again, I think it all depends on what ends up kind of a lot of politics-wise right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, especially with the Russian team and things like that. There's just a lot going on in Europe and Asia right now with our world communications and everything like that. That's also going to play a lot into how things fall in the draft, which really is a shame because it's not based off of who's the best player. It's what nation do they reside in and things like that, and we know what plays into that. So since the Sharks suck, I've seen lots of attention, so it's no hard feelings. Yeah, no. I think the Sharks are really going to do well with getting somebody. I think it's just a matter of time before we see that next guy jump into the conversation. You'll see. You'll hear that name and you'll be like, yeah, Kevin was right. There was some guy that nobody talked about that all of a sudden jumps in. And look at that. They got the Recce balloons up at Wells Fargo Center. That's awesome. And actually the jersey I'm wearing today, I bought last year on clearance at the Wells Fargo Center. Of course, they did the rebrand this summer. They have the new orange jerseys. So this is an old style Sean Couturier jersey. And I'm glad to see that the Flyers are definitely selling out a lot more of their buildings, a lot more of their games. And they kind of talked about it today during the retirement thing, is the NHL is a better league when the Flyers are good. And we're starting to see that right now. And my dad says, Wayne Trainey says, what do you think about the 5-game suspension at Islander game the other night? Cheap shot, can't wait till they visit the island in April. Yeah, so Brendan Gallagher got a 5-game suspension for an open ice hit on Adam Pelech. Yeah, that I think is a fair punishment. It's one of those things, would you have said maybe 7 or 10 games? I think a lot of people would have been even okay with that. It was a dirty hit. And Pelech's injury history has me very concerned. He has not looked good under the Lane Lambert era for the Islanders. And with all these injuries now, I am quite concerned about Adam Pelech. I hope the best for him. I hope he's okay. But I think most people, even Habs fans, would agree with the statement that Brendan Gallagher definitely deserved that suspension. We all know Chicago getting the first pick again, no matter what. Yeah, I know. That's going to be tough. And when they do, like we were last year for the last draft lottery, you guys remember my reaction. A lot of you guys were quite upset, and rightfully so. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't like seeing the Blackhawks winning the lottery like that. And I think just the circumstance of everything, the wound was still so new that a lot of people were really upset about it. And I think rightfully so. And a lot of people think that they haven't had enough time since their dynasty days of failure and suffering and misery. But you have to remember, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Blackhawks were actually in a lot of trouble. And that's how they ended up getting Kane, Taves, Keith, Seabrook. That's how they ended up getting all those guys, is because they sucked for a really long time. And I don't really remember when they weren't good, because for most of my childhood growing up till now, really, they've always been good. And they've always had some kind of superstar on their team, so it's hard to look at a world where that was possible. But when Rocky Wirtz came in there and the Wirtz family took over the ownership there, the TV rights and stuff like that, they saved the Blackhawks in Chicago in a time where that team was losing money. An original 6 franchise was struggling and really having a hard time. I have my thoughts about Rocky Wirtz as a person and the morals and things like that, but putting that aside, and not at the sake of the victims for everything that's gone on there, they saved that team in Chicago, for better or for worse, right? So Urban said you see Longbeard or whatever his name is for Florida hit on Fleury, then got 3-game suspension after Duhaime beat his butt. Are you talking about Radko Gudas? I don't remember if he's still there or not. That might be who you're talking about. Oh, okay. So Shaka said, not sure if you've done a video, but basically talking about Gauthier trade to the Ducks and Jamie Drysdale going back to Philly in return. So that's one of those things where I love when fans get so upset about the Islanders with John Tavares, which I did go to the 2 games earlier this year where the Islanders played the Leafs, and oh, it was so great beating the Leafs in overtime, both those games. But I will tell you, when Tavares scored that goal with like 8 seconds left in regulation to tie the game to send it to overtime, I was so nervous. But the Islanders found a way to win that game, and I think there's a lot of correlation here. It's a different circumstance, but I think everybody likes to get mad at the player, right? It's easy to get mad at John Tavares. It's easy to get mad at Cutter Gauthier. But the mismanagement by the general manager here also is part of the play. We always think it's easy to blame the player and be mad at the player, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the management group that led to that decision to not want to play there or not want to re-sign there. And I think a lot of people, because they're fans and it's not completely rational thinking, it's very easy to get caught up in, man, that player sucks, we have to hate him and boo him every time he comes in, which I'm sure Cutter Gauthier will get. But that's part of sports. I would be more concerned if Flyers fans weren't pissed off. I'd be more pissed off. I'd be more concerned if Islander fans weren't booing John Tavares. You know what? Because that means you don't have hardcore, passionate fans in the sport. And I think that's something that the NHL already lacks to begin with, is enough hardcore, dedicated fans. If hockey's on and there's no basketball or football or this or that, okay, well, I'll put on hockey just to put something on. That's not what you want. You want fans choosing you over another sport. And that's something that the NHL lacks. So any bit of that pulse of fans being upset and frustrated that a guy left, I think is really good for the sport and shows that there is still a little bit of a vital sign left for the NHL fan bases out there. So I don't know what you guys think of that. I'm sure you guys will agree with me on that. I think that's a pretty easy stance to go with. But I look at every bit of controversy, good or bad, is a good sign for the NHL that there's fans actually interested and caring. And I think that the fact there's passion and care behind these fan bases is a very good sign for the NHL. Urban, nope, Gudas is an Anaheim. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. This season has been such a dud for me, and I really am. It's one of those things, guys, where I just have not been on my P's and Q's because, like I said, I am working on going into a career that's going to take so much of my energy, and I've already been studying like crazy and putting a lot of time dedicating to that, where this channel has taken priority-wise, it is not at the number one spot right now, and that's kind of where we're at. Who was the real hero of that game? Who's the real hero of that game? Barzell. Yeah, that's right. I know what my dad's getting at there. I think he means Barzell. Shaka said, it starts a new rivalry between Anaheim and Philly. Who doesn't love that? Exactly. And I've even heard rumors that the Flyers could be interested in Trevor Zegras if they are to make another trade. If they trade, say, like a Couturier or somebody else there, that could be really interesting. And it looks like they're getting ready for puck drop in Philly. Finally, almost 40 minutes after 12:30, but whatever. That's okay. It's been nice talking to you guys, so it's not like we really haven't... We needed the time to catch up anyway, so... Depends on the player. Cheer Parise, screw Suter. Yeah, and what's interesting with that Parise thing is, I don't know if you remember Urban, but earlier this year, Parise said, listen, if I don't come back to the Islanders, I'm probably going to retire. Right? Well, look what he did. He ends up going to Colorado. Here's the thing. When players say stuff like that, you're setting yourself up for disaster because now the Islanders haven't had a great season and he had an opportunity to go to Colorado. Of course he's going to take that opportunity. But you know what? A ton of fans are going to be upset because he promised, like Tavares did, when you promise people things, they're going to take you on your word. And if you go against your word, it's one of those things where nobody is forcing you to say those things. Like, oh, it's either I retire or I'm an Islander. He went out of his way to say that stuff. Guys have to start learning to be extraordinarily careful what they say. I think that was just a misfire by Parise, and I think a lot of fans are upset about that. Oh, military hero, yes. Yes, now I know what my dad means to that. Okay. Okay. Depends on the player. Okay. So here we go. So the Bruins and Flyers. Both teams wearing new jerseys for this season, which I love. I love the Bruins. New home, away, and alternate uniforms. The new logo. I love it. Huge, huge fan of that. So yeah, now we saw a bunch of people come in here because they saw that the game was starting. So hopefully we get a bunch of people in here today. Well, I think a lot of people were saying false rumors, Shaka, that apparently Carter Gauthier grew up a Penguins fan, right? Because he's from Pittsburgh. So people were like, oh, he never wanted to play for the Flyers and all this BS. Like, at the end of the day, I get it. As much as, let's put it this way, and I'll kind of end the conversation with this. As much as Carter Gauthier has the right to not sign with the Flyers and ask for a trade request, as fans, Flyers fans also have the same right to boo him, to mock him, and do all that stuff. Now, when it gets to the point where you start threatening his family and stuff, like a couple of Flyers fans did, that's over the line. That's no longer okay. But that's not all Flyers fans. I know a lot of Flyers fans. I've gone up there. I went up there, like I said, last spring. They're not always like that. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, it's one of those things where again, people like to toe the line, and then everyone says, "Oh, well, all Flyers fans suck because they sent death threats to his family." That's not true. That is just flat out not true. Is Urson playing for Philly with heart out? Yeah, so that's another. I mean, the whole thing with the World Junior players. I mean, I don't really want to speculate much on that because so much of it is still like just unknown, and I don't want to talk about. I don't want to speculate on things I don't know 1,000%. Trade rumors, I'm willing to do that, but something as serious as this, like allegations and how much of that stuff is involved, I really don't want to get too in the weeds on that. But I would assume Urson is playing tonight. Yeah, so this game's already getting a little bit chippy, a little testy. I believe the Flyers are on the penalty kill, and that's a tough one. That's Lawton in the box. He's a good penalty killer. Oh, Jesus. So Scott Lawton takes a penalty that I don't agree with, but okay. That's a rough call for the Flyers. That's a tough call. Well, the GM said that he told him he was born to be a Flyer. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't get why players do this stuff. They're like, oh, I'm born to be a Flyer and this and that, and then he leaves. Like, again, that's where I understand the frustration for Flyers fans. And that's why, like, people don't understand with the whole Tavares thing. That whole season, the media was pressing Tavares, saying, do you want to be an Islander? Would you want to be an Islander? And the entire time he was saying, I want to be an Islander the rest of my career and things like that. Islanders fans wouldn't have been upset with him if he didn't say that stuff. If you don't say stuff and make these false promises, fans can't get as upset with you. You give them fuel. And I know it's human, and when you're constantly asked the questions, you want to answer them. But and that's not even something, like he told the GM that. He wasn't even being truly pressed on that. I don't know. The whole Carter Gauthier thing is, I want to see as more details come out, what truly happened with that, because I think it's a little miscommunication by everybody. But as of right now, yeah, it definitely isn't a great look for Carter Gauthier. And then there's the argument, well, does he have the right to ask for a trade request when he's never played a game and this and that? Again, those are all old century, those are 21st century hockey ideals that don't work today. And I think that's something that a lot of traditional hockey-minded people, including myself even, have a hard time accepting is players have so much more control and freedoms than they ever did before. And sometimes it's good to promote the game, and maybe we see a little bit more from players we never saw in the past, but it's also going to come with its negatives, like we're seeing here with like a Cutter Gauthier situation where maybe he has a little bit more power than he probably deserves for a guy that's never played an NHL shift yet, right? So, Goal Line Hockey, guys, good to chat with you all. Kevin, best of luck. We'll do great. Keep this channel kicking ass. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dad. I appreciate that. I wouldn't want to play the Flyers either. Yeah, those Flyers fans are crazy. And I want to go to a game. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I'd love to go to a Flyers playoff game because that is out of all the buildings I've been to, which isn't that many, but last year, of course, this in 2023, I took a road trip. I went to the Garden, a Ranger home game, an Islander home game, a Devils home game, a Flyers home game, and a Capitals home game, all in the same 9 days. So I went to 5 different home games in 9 days, which was sick. And I will say, the Flyers building, man, very underrated. I think a lot of people don't realize how good of a building the Farg is. Wells Fargo Center, if you're on the East Coast, you definitely might want to take a trip there. It is beautiful. And definitely if you stop in there, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you don't get Chickies and Pete's, the crab fries, if you don't go to Philly, if you go to Philly ever, make sure you get the crab fries. So good. But anyway, I digress. I'm losing viewership talking about crab fries. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here with those stadiums. You definitely got to go to some of those games. And like I said, I think a Flyers game in the playoffs, I'd love to see that one day. So things are getting quite chippy here. So Garnet Hathaway has 2 Bruins on top of him. I don't know what... Yeah, this game is getting quite interesting here so far. So we'll see how things kind of progress in this first period, but... Done. He can't be doing that. You gotta get it. So despite the Bruins having a power play, wow, this is gonna be a good game. So despite getting a power play, the Flyers are out shooting the Bruins 4-1 right now. Yeah, Shaka brought up a really good point. So thank you for joining us, Shaka. He said maybe that's why most players are quiet and give simple answers. Yeah, and that's the problem. See, that's the thing. Everybody wants both. They want players to be more charismatic, give better answers, but then the second they could use it against them, they do. So you can't ask for both ways. And again, that's where the fanatic side of things comes out in people, but there's not enough, like, the rational thinking side of things of like, yeah, you know what? If we can't have it both ways, right? We can't have players being charismatic telling us everything, but then also getting upset when things don't go the way we want them to. So thank you for joining us, Shaka. I appreciate that conversation. You were really good helping us out today, so I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, this game, I could tell it's getting a little bit feisty here in Philly, as I don't think I know a team that's had more afternoon games. The Flyers, it seems like every weekend have a home game at like 12:30, 1 o'clock. I don't know how they did that. The only afternoon matinee game the Islanders have this year is a 2 p.m. game against the Tampa Bay Lightning in a couple weeks. That is it. They have one game that early at home. So I don't know if that's the stadium. I don't know if that's like the venue having to do with that, or like the league. I don't know what's involved in whatever they do for that, but it is crazy how the Flyers in a week have like triple the number of matinee games the Islanders have at home in a season. It blows my mind. I don't know how they do that stuff, but again, that's the NHL for you, right? That's what they do. So Urban said, hockey day in Minnesota. Do they beat Anaheim tonight? Oh, that's an interesting question. Probably not. Honestly, Shaka. I mean, Urban. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. I think Minnesota's had such a tough season. I'd love to say yes because I know you're Minnesota, but you probably know the answer as good as I do. The way they've been playing, I don't know. But then Anaheim's right toward the bottom of the league too, so it's like I'm not sure. I mean, if we're gonna be here talking about this, I mean, for Minnesota, you look at the amount of injuries they have, right? You know, since the beginning of the new year, right? They have Jared Spurgeon, Vinny Lettieri, Sam Hanges, which we're not gonna say probably this season, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Connor Dewar. Um, I mean, that's three guys, Spurgeon, Fleury, and Dewar, that have been gone already, and since 27 days into 2024, they've already lost some guys. So yeah, definitely not the best situation for them. So we've been going for about an hour. I'm gonna start closing up shop here, guys. So if you have any last questions before I head out, let me know, and we will finish our first live stream for the first time since November 17th. It is crazy, but we are back, and I'm so here for it. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the replay, write in the comment section that you're watching the replay. If you watched it live today, make sure you comment out live, just so I get an idea of how many of you guys are watching the replay or the live. I definitely appreciate that. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel as well, as we are back on the road here in 2024 for Goal Line Hockey. Damn, that feels good to say. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Peace.